9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, good morning. It's Amanda with DevExpress, and I am back with Don Wibier. Don, how are you doing?
Hey, hey, Amanda. Yeah, I'm good.
You're
I'm
good?
uh, I'm quite happy as well because
Did you
I
fix
found
it?
I didn't fix it because I wanted to save that for like the live stream. But yes,
Oh,
I
nice.
knew something was not the way I would expect it to be, and I found it. Yeah.
Perfect. So when we ended our live stream on Tuesday, Don had run into a bit of an issue, and then he's gonna kind of back up and start from there and show us how he solved it. And he's telling me he was right. I'm not totally sure what that means, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, I'm just booting up the application so we can actually see where I ended up. So we have this beautiful new DevExpress thing. And I was expecting that. Remember that I created like two customer pages, one which is rendered on the server, and the other one which was rendered on the client, which are actually here. And I was expecting this one to load pretty fast. The customers on the server, this one, the top one is on the server, and the other one, I would expect that one to fail. But it was just the other way around because, yeah, that was, if I go to this one, it will be there. So I was really a bit obfuscated in the end, like, why is this one working and the other one isn't? Well, it appeared that it was quite simple because I mixed up the two pages and I changed the routes here. So yeah, so if I would go here, so here we are in the client version of it. And so here is that customer page. And yeah, here is the markup. So if I would go up, we'll see that it will act on the slash customers. And the other one, which was, where was that one again? That was right here. So this is in the server portion of the Blazor application. You see, and that one was reacting on the customer's client URL. So what I should have done is remove this one from the server side version. And let's do it a bit cooler. This is going to be the H2 server rendered. And now I go to the client one. And I'm going to put that client URL portion here. And just, yeah, of course. That is a good question. Before we get totally off track, let me put here client
Yeah, I don't want to just.
side version. So now both pages have a title as well, so we can see it. Yeah, so with .NET 8, yeah, on which version is Signal R used and on which scenario it isn't? Well, that turns out that is a bit new. That behavior is a bit new with .NET 8, and particularly if you are working with auto render modes or server-side rendering. Well, if you only use server-side rendering, you explicitly state in your application that you only want to use server-side rendering, but then you don't have any interactivity, so you can't click anywhere. There will not be any Signal R. But as soon as you change to interactive WebAssembly, or you go to the auto mode, where it could render on the server, but again on the client as well, then SignalR will be used. But the cool thing is that as soon as the application is starting up and the first page is server-side rendered, it can download WebAssembly on the background, and as soon as it switches over to WebAssembly, then it will close down the SignalR connection. So that whole mechanism is slightly different from .NET 7 and the previous versions with Blazor. But we can typically see that with the web developer tools in the browser. There you can actually see when a SignalR connection is set up and where it doesn't. Anyway, I saved the application. And now let's go to the home page and back to the client version. And this one will not work. And that was what I wanted. And if I go to this one, the server rendered version, then you'll see that it works. So this is typically where I wanted to end the last stream, but yeah, I got mixed up with the URLs and so we got that sorted out. And now we can use some other stuff that we have already coded in the previous streams, because this client version, it will not be able to render any data because we haven't set up Web API. So it cannot connect to the Web API backend, and it cannot retrieve the data from there. And that's the reason why it fails. If you would check it out in the web developer tools, and I would go to, let me make this a bit better. I think I could zoom this in. And if I go to the network and hit Control F5 to make sure that everything loads, then we should get something which could not be found except for the FAF icon. And that is this one. You see? This customer's endpoint cannot be found, and that is the endpoint that will feed the data into the grid. And it's quite obvious that it cannot be found because we haven't configured it. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it a bit cooler as we did in the previous version, and that is by using a minimal API. So what is that, you might think? Let me get back to here. So we need to set up the web API, and we can do that in this DX Chinook V8 application. We can just put the web API connectivity in there as well. But instead of doing it like we've done in the previous server application, the one on .NET 7 or 6, I can't remember. Yeah, I put some code in here with a base controller with some generics in there. And for every entity that we want to make available to the client application, we need to set up one of those one of those controllers, which is derived. Let me zoom in a bit. Which is derived from our base controller, where we specify the key here and the model that we're dealing with, and we need to implement a number of abstract methods. But I mean, it's not a lot of work, but still it's some work. So with the introduction of .NET 7, if I'm not mistaken, the web team from Microsoft have implemented something which is called minimum APIs, and that makes it quite easy if you set your application up correctly to make those endpoints, and that's what we're going to use. This is even less work as what we've done here. So what we need to do for that, of how does that work? Well, let's start with one of those things. if I go to the server application, let's first put in the Swagger tools so we can at least see that our web API is running. So for that, I'm going to copy over a couple of things from the old server application. And that is these ones. You remember the Swagger documentation site, Amanda? The one with the nice colors where you could see all the endpoints and you could actually browse data and stuff. You missed it? No problem. I'll show it to you again. So let me put in these packages, and there were a couple of things I needed to copy over. The API endpoints explorer needs to be configured, and this is typically the same as with the previous versions of .NET. It's going to be this one. And there was one other thing I needed to put in, and that is this one. So I'm going to put them here in as well. All right, and now what we can do, maybe for whoever checked out the code that I've posted to the GitHub repo, let me see, why is this not to be found? I think I need to save something here. Let me see if everything is downloaded. I probably need to put in this thing. Oh no, it's okay now. This one can go. All right, for all of you that checked out the repo already, you might have noticed that I have been checking that minimal API stuff already a bit. But yeah, to show how that works, it's quite cool. I put something in here, and this is typically, if I copy over this stuff, and I will explain what it does. Let me first start with just one. So instead of doing all the controllers and the base class for the controller and implementing the abstract methods in the base controller, I can set up a web API call, which by using the minimal APIs, and that looks like this. So I'm configuring the app to put in an endpoint which supports the GET, HTTP GET. This is the route that it will respond to. And now there is a function which will use dependency injection and a couple of other things to fill those parameters. And this is very nice, because if you check what's happening here, this key will be passed in because I put that key between the curly braces here. The iData store will be injected by dependency injection, and that store, well, we have been doing quite some work on that. The store has a method getByKey, and here I will use a newer C# feature that if the result of that method is of type customer model, then I'll return that, and if it is not, if it's null or it's not found or whatever, I'll return an appropriate error message. So this is typically the same what we did with the whole controllers. So instead of 20 lines of code, it's now reduced to this. So this is quite short. If I would now build this and go to the Swagger endpoint, because we have configured the Swagger as well. What we'll see, if I go back to the application and I go to Swagger, then that method automatically shows up in Swagger as well. You remember this one, Amanda, right? So yeah, this is yeah, this saves us a ton of work, and we can actually create a helper method to make it even faster. So this is for getting something, but and this is to get a particular customer by key. So if I would like to try this out, and I'll specify a key, probably we have somebody with an ID of 4. Amanda, are you muted or something? Because I can't hear you. Oh, no, I hear you. Yeah. I hear you very soft. Let me see if something, oh, that's me. Let me put in my other ear. I think it'll probably go. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear now, but for the last couple of minutes I didn't hear you, but I think my... Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh my God, what did I miss? What did I miss? I'm specifying a key, and I am calling that endpoint that I just configured, and here we'll get our customer. So this is, well, I think this is quite cool because we can minimize more code, which is what I love. So let's go for that. Exactly. I mean, the least code you have, yeah, you will reduce. Yeah, how do you say that? If you have a lot of code, the chances are that you have a lot of bugs. But I mean, if you have, so that levels. But anyway, we need some more. And what we also need is, let me see, we need to get a query with customers as well. And so typically, if I would go back to the, what was that? Where did I put that one? Oh, it's already closed, I guess. Yeah, if we, yeah, we need to have something like this as well, where we will pass in those data source load options. So we can query, yeah, the web API to get a number of customers to show in a grid. So we can do that as well in a similar way. And for that, I will go back to my program CS file. And I will do this. I can just copy this one over. And I'll put that in the program file of the server portion of our application. And let me put it on top as well. But now there is one thing that we need to check out, because I was referring that key is going to be passed in by the routing system. But those data source load options is like a collection with options to specify which page, how big the page is, what kind of filtering is applied, what kind of sorting is applied. So that's like a whole bunch of options. And that needs to be somehow injected into this method as well. So for that, we have an article which I would love to share with you, which looks a bit like minimal. If you search for DevExpress, the data source load options with minimal API, we get this first particular item in our support center. And obviously somebody has been encountering this issue before I encountered it. Yeah, he typically did the same. This doesn't work for some reason. So how does that work? Well, the answer is also somewhere below. And that is by creating a small derived class from the data source load options, which will bind to the HTTP context. And by doing so, it is able to fetch a whole bunch of query string parameters and transform it. Because if we go back to this to the website, where was it? This one. Here. Still working, yeah. And I go back to the developer tools. What you see is if we check out this URL, let me zoom it in a bit and hover over it. You see that all those options are being sent as query string parameters. So the count, is it a count query, the number of pages, all that stuff is being passed in as a query string parameter. And by using the approach, which is, where was it? It was right here. We can access those query string parameters and do something with it. So this is quite simple to set up. You can just take this over or later on clone my repo. Let's create a small little file. Just a simple C# class. And I will call that API helper. And I will put that right in here. In this case, it's called my data source load options. Well, I could actually change that or leave it. Doesn't really matter. But now, if I go back to program, now by using this type, which is typically the same as the data source load options, it will actually fetch those parameters and will be able to do so. One of the other things that I need to check here is, I think this can go actually. And we need to resolve something. All right, so now we have also implemented this customer thing. And if I remember correctly, the customer API store runs is expecting this endpoint. So what I can do, if I go back here and just change this, and change this, I should be able to browse that client-side data grid as well. So let's first check Swagger. and get this one out. Yeah, and as you can see, we now have two methods because I added the second one. This one is the query, and this one is the by ID method. And if I now go to the application itself, this one would still work. And this one isn't. And why is that? It is loading, but it is running quite a bit, you see? So this is not entirely good. Good question, but it's 270, 80 requests. Let's get off this page because this is not good. We've probably forgotten something. Can't be anything else. It has something to do with the load options, I guess. Or did I? Let me have a quick check in my little notes book. Yeah, of course. I mean, I was working on this before .NET 8 was released already, so I was actually ready to show this. So, but now, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks before. I mean, last week was .NET Conf, or no, last week was we were off. The week before was .NET Conf, so time flies when we're having fun. So let me have a small and quick check because I think I did something here. I changed something. Oh yeah, always, always. No. Oh yeah, it is gonna work for sure. So the my data source load option, I am gonna change it because not that it has a really big impact, but at least I can see if I missed something. This should be okay. And now I go back to the program. And this one is good as well. And the load options should be in there. Oh, I think I know what it is. I think it has something to do with the fact that we will need some stuff from DevExpress for this to work. Yeah, this costed me a bit of time as well because we have these load options. It's somewhere in the internal namespaces of Blazor as well. But I mean, I found out that we need to make sure that we have some packages included, which are these ones. I'll zoom it in. We need to have this. These are important. And then once we have those included, I need to make sure that the correct namespaces are here as well. And the same is for that helper class. I think this one is not good. Yeah, it needs to come from somewhere else. And I'm gonna copy that in here. So now we have two files, so I will make sure these are in as well. Yeah, I think this is the problem. And then this was here, and then I'm going to finally check the program CS file. I think this is all good. Yeah, I think once we run this again, it should work. Here we are. Voila. Yes. Yeah, this is, I'm not entirely sure, but this is an important thing. So you have to make sure to use those data source load options from the DevEx stream packages. And now we can, this is WebAssembly, which is now running. So we can just, yeah, everything is rendered on the client, and we're fetching data as we want. You can see that right here. I can even make this go into GS, I guess, or JSON. It should be. Well, we'll leave it for now. But now we are actually doing that. And we can still do filtering, we can do editing, and this will still not work because we need to set up something similar for the employee. Remember that we once did this employee web API as well. So, well, if we want to populate this drop-down box with employers, we need to do a similar thing that we have done here. And also updating and deleting is not implemented for this particular endpoint. But yeah, you could imagine that if you have like 100 entities in the database that you want to do like this, you'll need a whole bunch of this code in your application, in your program CS file, which is not really what we want. So fortunately, we can compact this a bit and make it even cooler. So I could, and this is what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to create an extension method. And for that, I will first declare a static class map data store controller extension. And I'm going to create a static method. Static web application map store controller. And this is, again, something I like doing with C# and all that stuff. I'm going to create a static generic method which will get a web application instance, and I'm going to call this app, and I'm going to do a couple of other things here. I'm going to pass in a route, and I'll show you a bit later what this does, and I will also include a bool map create, map update, and a bool map delete. And I'll tell you in a minute why I put these ones in. And I'm going to return the app. And the idea is, I'll put the code in a bit later, but I'll first show you what the idea from this is. So I have the map store controller. What I want to do is, instead of all this code for one controller, I want to be able to do this. App map. How did I call it? I forgot. Map store controller. I want to be able to call this method where I specify the integer for the key and the customer model. And next, I will specify customers. And now I could actually say whether this controller is able to update, delete, and create as well. So in this case, it is defaulted by true. And I can now take this one and that will get rid of quite some code. We can put that code in here. Oh, and before this will work, I will need to set up a take key equatable take key t model is class new. All right, so now we can do some fun stuff like this. I can change this route. And I can change this to take key T model. And this should also be changed to take key T model. Oh, I think I should be able to zoom in as well. Yeah. I do need to make sure that it is an iQueryable data store, otherwise we don't have the query method, what we need a bit further down the road. And with this in place, we could actually update this with name and with OpenAPI is necessary for Swagger. So I could even make this flexible. By doing it like this. Yeah, and with this, we can make the whole, pretty much everything generic. You see? And we can do, I can do the same with the key one. So let me go here as well. And this can also be made generic. So this is going to be take key. Again, this is take key. T model. And now I can say if that is T model, and let's make this one like this, and then the other one, so the create, I won't be coding in that by hand. I'll put it in. Yeah. Yes, of course you can. Well, I mean, that obviously depends on the specifications, but also, yeah, but that we could fill another hour with that. I mean, there is a whole bunch of improvements on the minimal APIs in .NET 8 as well. And I mean, particularly, yeah, the stuff that I'm doing here, I mean, it is a lot of work, which is, yeah, it's a lot of the same, but slightly different. And in this case, what you'll see is that it is quite cool to use this approach. And I mean, you can also include authorization and authentication in minimal APIs as well. And yeah, well, as I mentioned, this is even less work as what I did with the base controller and the abstract methods that you will need to implement for all of the APIs. And this will save you a ton of work. So again, yeah, it depends on the specifications. And I've set up all the other building blocks that we can use this approach, because the validation takes place at another level. And it is nice to mention that you'll see here, if I go up, that I specify an attribute here in this method which says validate never. And this is typically, I mean, the whole validation process and stuff, that is typically also done in a typical web API endpoint. But now I have explicitly stated I don't want it to be validated here, because we are going to validate it in the data store. Remember, we have the Fluent validation for that. So for this scenario, this would work just fine. But I could imagine that if you have more complex things going on in your API, then you might prefer a real controller class. So yeah, I hope that answers that. For us, yeah, so for us, this is quite cool, because we needed that employer data store to get that drop-down box filled. So now the only thing I need to do here, employees, and we are dealing with an employee model. So with this one extra line, I have set up a complete endpoint for employees. And if I would now run the application, we should be able to see the drop-down box filled as well once we edit one of those customers. And in this case, we're talking about the web API, or the WebAssembly version. So let's go here. The cool thing is that my mouse is gone for some reason. Why don't I see my mouse? Okay, let's try here. How stupid is this? I don't see my, do you see my mouse move? I don't see it. Okay, so now we have to, does anybody has a mouse for me? It doesn't matter. I will just go here. There we are. And as you see, our grid works with the keyboard as well, without mouse. That's cool. Well, yeah, that's DevExpress magic. But anyway, so what you also see now is that the so if I zoom in, the support rep is now filled, and it used to be empty. And the reason for that is, let me get it back. I have to do this again. This is so annoying. That didn't go. I have no idea. But anyway, you saw that the data has been fetched, and also, yeah, that the combo box is populated. And that was only because we have now used the minimal API. So a new feature to quickly set up a web API endpoint. And yeah, because we have created now this extension method, which works with the rest of our framework that we've built during this streams. It is just one line of code that we need to configure, and you have a full working API for customers, employees, whatsoever. So yeah, well, typically whatever you coded. And if I would go here and go to Swagger, that's interesting as well to show. What did I do here? The response is not good. Hey, yeah, that is not what I'm. No, let's do a quick rebuild. I don't know. No, I don't see any mouse. I'm doing it by keys. I think that there is something in my extension, in my API helper class, which makes sure. Let me see, get route. Maybe it can't do it like this. Let me see what happens if I remove this. This should be a bit weird. Yeah, that is going to be replaced by the route parameter that was on this method. So we should get like post customer or post employee or whatever. But probably something, it looks like something interferes with this. So let's see if we get rid of this. Oh no, not that one. Huh. Yeah, I was expecting something like this. So now this doesn't work either because now there are several get points, endpoints that, oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah, but my mouse is still not there. Yeah. Okay, so I need to put this back in because now you'll have several delete methods with the same name, which apparently doesn't work. So I'll hit Control Z to get this stuff back in. And I saw one little thing, and that is this one. This should be changed to route as well, because that is depending on what we're trying to get, the customer or the employee. And this one should also have the route. Yeah. Huh. It still doesn't show me. What is this? Swagger. There must be something which is so if anybody has an idea what I missed, I'll be more than happy to get that information off you. No, I'm not gonna. Ah, you got me. You you got me. You got me there. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, no, this is, yeah, this should be there. I have no idea why the swagger is not working. But I'll figure that out and I'll let you know next time. That is actually, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think, nah, I think I'm not gonna save this cliffhanger. I think it had something to do with the double curly braces on this particular side, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. This did it out a lot. Nah. Oh, I've got something for it. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, no, but I am gonna fix this. What about that? I'm gonna, yeah, watch me. Don't challenge me. Or to speak it. Yeah. The, or I wanted to. Did you see the Expendable movie, like the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme? Did you see it? He had this very cool phrase. Don't challenge me. With his French accent. Yeah. So I'm gonna fix this. Don't challenge me. But hey, I see all nice colors. You see it? Exactly. Yeah. So there was some sort of a syntax thingy not going on, but we fixed it. And as you can see with this extension method, it will show all the methods in our API as well, which is kind of cool, I would say. You see, so everything is there. And it's all, well, it's not really documented, but I mean, at least you can test them and you know that this stuff works. And the same goes for the employees. So here's the employees as well. And that is done by just this extension method, generic extension method, together with the good one-liner here. So this gives us all those endpoints. So again, we have reduced code. This also works with .NET 7, by the way. So this is not typically new for .NET 8, but at least, yeah, we'll have reduced some more code. And as you can now see, the application runs again on server and WebAssembly. What we can also do, the last thing I'll show you is quite cool as well, which is typical new Blazor feature. If I go to my customer page, I have to make sure this is the client one. Remember that last time we put in those render modes. And now I have specified explicitly that the render mode is WebAssembly, so it will run on the client only. I can also change this to auto, and then it will still work. And then when needed, it will be rendered on the server, but once WebAssembly is downloaded, it will run from the browser. And because we are using Web API to get the data and not native data access, it will still work like a charm. Yeah. We, oh, I don't, Alex, Alex, I don't want to be, I don't want to poop your party, but we're almost done for today. I have been just, I will give him a small little recap, but first I do want to show you the auto render mode. That is this one. And now what we'll see is that it will be initially rendered on the server. So it will be static rendered, and then it will switch over to WebAssembly. So Alex, to get back to you, we have just created an application with our new Blazor project template, which supports .NET 8. This is, by the way, a release candidate. We're still waiting for the official release. Um, and I have shown how you can implement our data grid together with Web API to support both server-side rendering as well as client-side rendering. And the last thing that you saw was auto rendering. So in that case, Blazor will figure out what's best for the scenario. And right after this, I'm going to put this code on GitHub again, so you can download it and play around with it. So what do you say, Amanda? Are we? I think we're done. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I have a very simple thing to take care. In Holland, here in Holland, we have this party. It's a bit like Santa Claus, but we actually call it Santa Claus, but it's like a saint. It doesn't have anything to do with Christmas, but he looks a bit similar with yeah, we have yeah, it's Santa Claus. He's got like the white beard and but he doesn't look like Santa Claus. He's got a bit of different clothing. He is a saint and he is celebrating his birthday on December 5th. And for the kids, they always get presents. So I'm always very easy. I'm aiming for December 5th because that would be my Santa Claus present basically for the new release. You know? Not sure if it makes any sense, but we're close. We're close to official release. It could be the first, but it could be a bit later as well. Yeah, yeah. No, that's actually a good point. Tomorrow is Friday already. Yeah. No, I wouldn't count on Friday. No, exactly. I won't respond on that. I'm not like the Tom guy. Sorry. Nah.
All right. Well, Don, thank you. And we will be back next week. If you haven't already, if you're enjoying our stream, don't forget to follow, and you have to turn on your notifications so that you know when we go live. And we usually stream Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but always be sure to check our schedule. It does change from time to time. All right, Don. So we'll see you again next Tuesday. Any thoughts on what you
Absolutely.
might be showing us next week?
Uh, it's it's gonna have something to do with Blazor 8. It's also gonna have something to do with our new upcoming release.
Okay.
I'm not sure what, but it's gonna be cool anyway.
All right. I like it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.